Namaskar, dear students. I am Dr. Ruchi Wadhwa from Government PG College, Hisar, and today we are here to read together, to learn together, and to enjoy together a beautiful poem, Ode on a Grecian Urn, by a well known poet, John Keats. Yes, on the left side of the slide, you can see a drawing of an urn which was made by the poet John Keats himself. Here you can see a picture of this young poet John Keats, and in this slide you can see two statues of John Keats which are situated in London. So now let us know something about the poet. John Keats was a romantic poet who was born in 1795 in London and died in 1821. Today, he is considered as one of the most important literary figures of early 19th century. Besides many other works, he wrote 6 odes which made him immortal in the history of English literature. They are Ode on a Grecian Urn, Ode to a Nightingale, Ode to Autumn, Ode on Melancholy, Ode to Psyche, and Ode on Indolence. So ये वो 6 ओड्स हैं जिन्होंने कीट्स को अंग्रेजी साहित्य के इतिहास में एक अमर स्थान प्रदान किया. So now obviously the question comes up, what is an ode? This question and the answer to this question are very important for you people to know. I have tried to explain it in very simple words in the slide, so read it carefully. Ode is a form of poetry like other forms as sonnet, elegy, etc. This is a formal lyric poem that addresses and celebrates a person, place, thing, or idea. There are 3 types of odes, and they are Pindaric odes, Horatian odes, and irregular odes. I hope you have understood till now. Yes? So, moving forward, now I come to the theme of the poem. कविता का सब्जेक्ट क्या है, थीम क्या है? The poem Ode on a Grecian Urn focuses on art, beauty, truth, and time. It gives importance to the fact that art transcends time and reality. A conflict between transience and permanence runs throughout the poem. There is also a conflict between the everyday world of suffering, pain, death, and the timeless beauty, permanence, and lasting effect of art. The poet is of the view that beauty in art is permanent as opposed to earthly human existence, which is transient and fades with time. Yes, Are you facing some difficulty in getting the theme of the poem? Don't worry, I'm going to translate it in Hindi also. यह कविता कला, सत्य, समय और सुंदरता पर आधारित है। यह इस सत्य को प्रतिपादित करती है कि कला समय और सत्य से ऊपर उठकर है। इस कविता में क्षणभंगुरता और चिरस्थायित्व के बीच का द्वंद्व दिखाया गया है। एक और द्वंद्व इस कविता में है और वह है प्रतिदिन के जीवन की पीड़ा, दर्द, मृत्यु और अंतहीन सुंदरता और कला के चिरस्थायी प्रभाव के बीच का द्वंद्व। सरल शब्दों में आप इसे ऐसे समझ सकते हैं कि कला अमर है, जबकि जीवन में बहुत से दुख हैं और जीवन क्षणभंगुर भी है। सो जीवन और कला के बीच का द्वंद्व इस कविता में दिखाया गया है। कवि यह सोचता है कि कला की सुंदरता जो है वह चिरस्थायी है, जबकि मानव जीवन क्षणभंगुर है और यह समय के साथ नष्ट हो जाता है। चलिए अब जानते हैं पोएम के बारे में। अबाउट द पोएम। An urn is a vase-shaped marble sculpture in which the Greeks used to keep the ashes of the dead. The poem was written in 1819 and the poet was inspired by ancient Greek sculptures which he saw in the British Museum. He was also inspired by his artist friend Benjamin Haydon to draw pictures of these antique vases. There was not only one specific Greek urn described in the poem, rather the poet used several sources for various scenes. The poem is divided in 5 stanzas of 10 lines each. In the very beginning of the poem, there is a speaker who looks at a Grecian urn which is decorated with many images of rustic life. He addresses the urn and describes the images depicted on it. तो यह कविता 1819 में लिखी गई थी। कवि ग्रीक मूर्ति कला से काफ़ी प्रभावित था, जिसे उसने ब्रिटिश म्यूजियम में देखा था। कोई एक विशिष्ट ग्रीक अर्न इस कविता में नहीं दिखाया गया है, उसके बारे में नहीं बताया गया है, बल्कि कवि ने विभिन्न स्रोतों का सहारा लिया है अलग अलग दृश्यों को दिखाने के लिए। इस कविता में 5 स्टैंजास हैं और हर स्टैंजा में 10 लाइन्स हैं। कविता के आरंभ में कविता बोलने वाला एक वक्ता है जो कि ग्रीशियन अर्न को देख रहा है, जिस पर रस्टिक लाइफ, रूरल लाइफ की बहुत से चित्र दिखाए गए हैं। वो कलश को संबोधित करता है और उसके ऊपर बने हुए चित्रों के बारे में बताता है। I hope you have understood till now. Yes? Okay. Now here what is it? This is the manuscript of the poem. The original poem written by John Keats in his own handwriting. Yes, you can see the handwriting of the poet here. I know it's not very clear, but this is all I could get for you. And what is the purpose of showing this poem's manuscript to you? Because in this way we feel some kind of connection with the poet and the poem. And as students of literature, if we feel this connection, it's very easy for us to understand the poem. Okay, so from this manuscript you can also get an idea of the beautiful handwriting of our young poet John Keats. So let us now start reading the poem. Here in this slide, the first stanza of the poem is there. I'm going to read it out and then I'll explain it in simple verse for you. So poem starts as the speaker says, "Thou still unravished bride of quietness, thou foster child of silence and slow time, sylvan historian, who canst thus express a flowery tale more sweetly than our rhyme, what leaf-fringed legend haunts about thy shape, of deities or mortals, or of both, in Tempe or the dales of Arcady. What men or gods are these? What maidens loath? What mad pursuit? What struggle to escape? What pipes and timbrels? What wild ecstasy?" So, in the opening lines of the poem, the speaker calls the urn a pure bride of silence and adopted child of silence and slow time. He also calls him a rural historian who is a better storyteller than the poet. The urn tells stories with the help of pictures engraved on it. The speaker wonders what stories are being told by the images on the urn, whether the figures it depicts are of gods or of common human beings or of both, and which part of Greece they are in. He wonders whether the places Greek Valley of Tempe or the famous valley of Arcady. You can see many question marks in the last lines of the stanza. So the speaker keeps on asking questions, and next he asks whether the persons depicted on the urn are men or gods. Who are these reluctant looking women? Is there a chase and an attempt to escape? What musical instruments are there on the urn? And what kind of sheer happiness is this? Okay, I hope you are getting the meaning of the poem. Okay, so in this second stanza, the first line is very important line. It often comes in explanation also, and here the poet says, "Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Therefore, ye soft pipes play on, not to the sensual ear, but more endeared, pipe to the spirit, it is of no tone. Fair youth, beneath the trees, thou canst not leave thy song, nor ever can those trees be bare. Bold lover, never, never canst thou guess the winning near the goal, yet do not grieve, she cannot fade, though thou hast not thy bliss, forever will thou love, and she be fair." I have also given you some word meaning of some difficult words here. Okay, so let's understand the meaning of these lines. Okay, so in the last stanza we read that there is a picture of musical instruments on the urn, and in continuation of that, in this stanza he says that melodies or tunes which we hear with our ears, which we are not able to listen, are sweeter than those which we listen with our ears, because imagination is always sweeter than reality. कल्पना जो होती है वो सत्य से ज़्यादा मधुर होती है, इसलिए वह संगीत जो हम अपने कानों से नहीं सुन सकते वह हमें ज़्यादा मधुर लगेगा उसकी बजाय जो हम अपने कानों से सुन सकते हैं. Unheard melodies have no sound, so they directly appeal to our heart or our soul. So he asked the musical instruments to keep playing, not for listening from ears, but as a tribute to silence. The speaker focuses on a young musician sitting under a tree. The musician is frozen on the urn while playing music, so he will keep on playing music forever. वह संगीतकार जो कलश पर चित्रित किया गया है वह हमेशा के लिए संगीत बजाता ही रहेगा, क्योंकि कलश पर वह हमेशा के लिए इसी प्रकार चित्रित ही रहेगा, अंकित ही रहेगा. In the same way, trees engraved on the urn will never shed their leaves. Now, there are two young lovers depicted on the urn. Though the lover is going to reach the beloved for a kiss, but he will never be able to do so, because the distance between them will be like this forever. The speaker tells them not to be upset because their love and the beauty of the beloved will never fade. कवि कहता है कि प्रेमी को हताश निराश होने की आवश्यकता नहीं है, क्योंकि उसका प्रेम हमेशा के लिए युवा रहने वाला है, ऐसे ही रहने वाला है, और उसकी प्रेमिका हमेशा के लिए जवान हसीन रहने वाली है. Okay, so now third stanza. What does he say in this stanza? I had happy boughs that cannot shed your leaves, nor ever bid the spring adieu, and happy melodist, unwearied, forever piping songs forever new. More happy love, more happy love, forever warm and still to be enjoyed, forever panting and forever young, all breathing human passion far above that leaves a heart high sorrowful and cloyed, a burning forehead and a parching tongue. So, what does the poet say in these lines? Let us understand in simpler words. The speaker now addresses the images of trees depicted on the urn, calling their boughs happy because they will never lose their leaves and they will never say goodbye to spring. The speaker again turns to the musician and says that the musician will always keep on playing new melodies, new tunes, new songs, and his songs will always be fresh. In the world of art, love is always happy. It will always be full of excitement, and it is always going to give pleasure. The lovers on the urn will always expect greater pleasure. Actually, the love depicted on the urn is better than the love of real life, because in real life love brings with it many types of difficulties, pain, etc. And sometimes it fills our heart with sorrow. It causes burning of the forehead, gives fever and thirsty tongue. तो कवि जो है इस स्टैंजा में कलश पर बने हुए पेड़ों के चित्र को संबोधित करता है और कहता है कि उसकी शाखाएं बहुत ही प्रसन्न रहने वाली हैं, खुश रहने वाली हैं, क्योंकि वो सदा बहार रहेंगी। कभी भी उनके पत्ते गिरेंगे नहीं, वो कभी भी बसंत ऋतु को अलविदा नहीं कहेंगी। जो संगीतकार इस कलश पर चित्रित किया गया है वो बिना थके हुए हमेशा के लिए नए गाने बनाता ही रहेगा, सुनाता ही रहेगा। यहाँ तक कि कलश पर अंकित प्रेम भी हमेशा के लिए प्रसन्न रहने वाला है, क्योंकि वह मानवीय प्रेम की तरह नहीं है जो कि अपने साथ कई तरह की परेशानियां भी लेकर आता है। यह प्रेम जो इस कलश पर अंकित किया गया है वह प्रसन्न ही रहेगा और हमेशा के लिए ऐसा ही फ्रेश बना रहेगा। Okay, I hope you have understood till now. So can we move forward? Yes. Yes, here is the fourth stanza of the poem, and in these lines the poet says, "Who are these coming to the sacrifice? To what green altar, O mysterious priest, leadest thou that heifer, lowing at the skies, and all her silken flanks with garlands dressed? What little town by river or seashore, or mountain built with peaceful citadel, is emptied of this folk this pious morn? And little town, thy streets forevermore will silent be, and not a soul to tell why thou art desolate can ever return." So what does he say in these lines? He watches another scene depicted on the urn, which appears to be of a ceremonious progression. The people in the progression are going to sacrifice an animal, a young cow. There is a mysterious priest who is leading this procession. Because the calf is going to die, it's crying very badly. The speaker wonders from which town these people have come for the procession. This town might be situated near a river, near a seashore, or on a mountain. If it is on a mountain, there may be a citadel, a castle also. Now the speaker talks to the imaginary town and says that the streets of this town will always be empty, because not a single person is going to come back to the town and tell us why the town was deserted, because all of them are permanently depicted on the urn. they can never go back to their town. तो इन पंक्तियों में कवि यह प्रश्न करता है कि ये लोग कौन हैं जो बलि देने के लिए आ रहे हैं। एक रहस्यमयी पुजारी भी है जो कि इनके आगे चल रहा है। कवि यह प्रश्न भी करता है कि ये लोग कहाँ से आए होंगे, किसी नदी के पास से, किसी समुद्र के पास से, या किसी पर्वत पर बने हुए छोटे से किले से। परंतु जहाँ से भी ये व्यक्ति आए हैं, ये कभी भी वापस अपने शहर तो जा नहीं पाएंगे, क्योंकि वो तो हमेशा के लिए इस कलश पर अंकित कर दिए गए हैं। तो वापस कैसे जाएंगे, बताने के लिए कि वह शहर सुनसान क्यों हो गया। चलिए अब पढ़ते हैं नेक्स्ट स्टैंजा, एंड दिस इज द लास्ट स्टैंजा of this poem. O Attic shape, fair attitude, with breed of marble men and maidens overwrought, with forest branches and the trodden wheat. Thou silent form dost tease us out of thought, as doth eternity, cold pastoral, when old age shall this generation waste. Thou shalt remain in midst of other woe than ours, a friend to man, to whom thou sayest, beauty is truth, truth beauty, that is all ye know on earth and all ye need to know. So, what does he say in this concluding stanza, last stanza? Now the picture changes and the speaker watches another scene depicted on the urn, which appears to be very beautiful. It's very beautiful and it is full of the pictures of men and women. There are also the pictures of the branches and trodden grass. The urn is able to give us a respite from thought in the same way as eternity does. The speaker also notes the fact that when everyone is in his generation will be dead, the urn will still be there. The urn is going to watch the sufferings of coming generations also. It will be a friend of man, to whom it will say that beauty and truth are one and the same. We hear the lines with similar meaning in Sanskrit also. Do you know the line? Satyam Shivam Sundaram. जो सत्य है वह ही शिव है, और जो शिव है वह ही सुंदर है. This fact is all that is possible for us to know, and this fact is all that anybody actually needs to know. Okay, so this is actually the conclusion of the poem also. Okay, however, we are going to discuss the conclusion in the next slide. So what is the conclusion of the poem? The poem is a contemplation on the immortality of art represented by the urn and the transience of human life. The Grecian urn does not age, thus it exists outside time. The poem is a celebration of the power of art. To sum up the theme, we can quote a line from another work of Keats. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. तो क्या बताया गया है निष्कर्ष में? कविता का निष्कर्ष क्या है? यह कविता कला की अमरता को बयां करती है। यह कला की शक्ति का जश्न मनाती है और कहती है कि कला की सुंदरता हमेशा हमेशा के लिए आनंददायी होती है। So students, I hope you have understood the poem. So why not discuss the questions now? What can be the questions which you can come across in your examination? There can be short answer type questions as well as long answer type questions and explanation also. Okay. So some suggested questions I have tried to show you in this slide. In short answer type question, you can get what does the urn symbolize? कलश किस बात का प्रतीक है? How does the poet compare living human lovers to those carved on the urn? कवि कलश पर अंकित प्रेमियों की तुलना जीवित मानवीय प्रेमियों से किस प्रकार करता है? What religious scene is depicted on the urn? कलश पर कौन सा धार्मिक दृश्य दिखाया गया है? What does the poet refer? Why does the poet refer to the urn as cold pastoral? Cold pastoral इस urn को क्यों कहा गया है? Explanation में आपको ये लाइन्स मिल सकती हैं जो कि काफ़ी important है. Heard melodies are sweet, but those unheard are sweeter. Okay, so I hope you got the meaning of this line. कि जो संगीत हम कल्पना में सुनते हैं वह सत्य में सुने गए संगीत से ज़्यादा मधुर होता है, क्योंकि कल्पना वैसे भी सत्य से ज़्यादा आकर्षक प्रतीत होती है. Comment on beauty is truth, truth beauty. Okay, so अभी हमने conclusion में भी पढ़ा और concluding stanza में भी पढ़ा. आप लिख भी सकते हैं इस एग्ज़ाम में सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम. ओके, सो इस लाइन का भाव जो है वो इस संस्कृत की लाइन द्वारा ही प्रतिपादित किया गया है. आप इसे एक्सप्लेन कर सकते हैं. These questions you can get as long answer type questions in your exam. Discuss the theme of transience and permanence in the poem. Okay, so in one slide I discussed with you the theme of the poem, and in that slide I told you that transience और permanence का theme इस कविता में है. क्षणभंगुरता और चिरस्थायित्व का थीम इस कविता में आपको दिखाया गया है. Keats is preoccupied with the imperfection of ordinary human experience of art. Elaborate. मानवीय अनुभव जो है वो परफेक्ट नहीं है, वो संपूर्ण नहीं है. इस तथ्य को कवि ने कैसे बताया है, ये इस प्रश्न में आपसे पूछा गया है. बात वही है, केवल दूसरे तरीके से इसे आपसे पूछा गया है. इसमें भी आपको कला के चिरस्थायित्व होने का और मानव जीवन के क्षणभंगुर होने का सत्य जो है आपको बताना है. So students, I hope you have enjoyed the poem. You have understand the topic well. Okay, if you have not understood it properly, even if you have understood it partially, that is sufficient. Okay, and if you are willing to read it again, you can read it, you can understand it again and again, and then you will be able to understand it fully. So in the end, I would suggest you keep reading. Okay, be safe, keep reading, keep working hard. Thank you. Namaskar.